Traders, what's going on, guys? Today's markets, we have some things coming up. It's U.S. session just kicked off about 23 minutes ago or so, and I'm pretty interested in seeing what pans out with maybe some of the later data releases later on tonight with employment change and unemployment rate for Australia. We did just have a PPI come out, purchasing price index for the U.S., which didn't affect markets too much. Obviously, you guys can see that we did come out a little bit lower than expected. Purchasing price index just deals with the amount of purchases and the price of those purchases from different manufacturers, mostly again in the manufacturing sector and things of that sort. So here, let's pull up the dollar index real quick just so we can see where we're at. So we're still monitoring the dollar index right around this structure, this major structure, right on this 23.6. Man, I'm so interested in seeing, what ends up happening. We know that we got up to this point because of all the inflation data that came out in April and in May. We spiked here. This massive spike here dealt with some of the things happening with Turkey and the Turkish lira collapse. Obviously, markets somewhat recovered since then, but we've just really been consolidating ever since. Okay, we've been consolidating ever since. I have been wanting to see this dollar actually push back up into structure because I thought that we would maybe see a little bit more U.S. strength. I thought we would see some positive data come out for NFP and whatnot, and we did actually have a really positive NFP last week. Here, if we scroll down, you guys can see NFP came out somewhat in the green, right? We expected 191. We ended up getting 201. Unemployment rate was 3.8. It ticked up 0.1, so we're at 3.9 now. Pretty interesting. So the unemployment rate for Canada as well ticked up as well. So it's pretty interesting to see. Maybe this is a start of something, right? Many market participants didn't get too involved in trying to buy or sell anything in regards to what we saw unemployment rate rise wise, because you guys noticed we didn't move. We didn't even move. It's hard to maintain 3.8. That's one of the lowest records in our history. Okay, so to see us at 3.9 isn't so much of a big deal. But if we see another move to maybe 4.0, that's when market participants are going to be like, whoa, what's going on? And we might start to see something. So the anticipation of a higher unemployment rate can be something that maybe you use to your advantage, as this month winds down. But again, we'll see what happens when that release comes out first week October on Friday. Nevertheless, all that data in the market right now has not moved markets too much outside of this price zone that we can see markets are at currently. We do have an interest rate decision coming up for the U.S. That interest rate decision potentially could start to maybe just add some volatility, but I think it's somewhat already priced in. If anything, I do think that we should see some dollar weakness over the next coming weeks, over the next coming months or so. All right, I don't know if the dollar can maintain this high right now. I'm thinking that a lot of the information that market participants are keeping an eye out on is already priced in. And so again, we are seeing that the euro has just a lot of upside potential at the moment. With all that upside potential, that's going to affect our dollar index heavily, which is going to send the dollar index at least selling off, all right, which is going to throw our Euro USD positions up in the structure. All right, here, let me pull up the Euro U. I was looking at some of the NZD crosses recently. So Euro USD right now is somewhat just really consolidated still. Here's what we're looking like on the daily. You guys can see that we are, again, still somewhat inside of this major consolidation. We did want to see some sell side on this Euro USD. Last week we had an idea where we on our Sunday webinar where we mentioned we wanted to see some sell side. We wanted to see markets break back down onto structure and potentially test the $14s. And I'm not saying that that's not likely to happen still. But at the moment it's just I'm just moving with a little bit of precaution in regards to what I think this Euro U can do. I don't have a cohesive decision as to where I want this market to be. If I had to pick a side, if I had to go to my head and say, Cleveland, where are we going? I would like to see a push back down onto this lower structure. I really would. And so again, that's just from a technical perspective, and even from a slightly fundamental perspective, I think the U.S. still has a higher likelihood to appreciate over the euro, relative to the euro appreciating over the U.S. at this time right now, within the next 30, 45 days. Okay, so basically a test of the $14s, I think, is somewhat in the future. It's just all about the entry and all about just, rationalizing exactly where we would start executing on that move. As you guys can see, markets are very, very tight, in a very, very tight range currently since the beginning of the week. Hey, who knows? You might see a little bit of a push up in the structure before we get that sell side move. I think that that's pretty possible too, only because the most recent price was to the upside. Okay, so I'm going to just really sit on my hands right now in regards to the Euro-U and update you guys as markets unfold. Because again, I like the sell side move, but currently price action shows me that maybe we could push higher and then sell off. That's actually what happened last week when we thought that we would get a sell off. Markets were looking like this. We ended up getting a little sell side break, but then we got to push up in the structure. And then when all that information came out on Friday, look what happened. We saw markets sell back off. Okay, so this is the strength that came in on Friday. But again, markets just ended up pushing right back up in the structure, and it held that low. And so we had another little test, another little run up in the structure. We consolidated right underneath this previous consolidation. And again, if it was up to me, I would like to see markets potentially run back up into the $16.50s before I see it break back down into that level. And then maybe we'll get markets to turn over. Okay, so this is what that looks like. Maybe a push up in the structure and then the sell off. Okay, now if markets just end up selling off, we'll just have to keep an eye on it. If markets run down to the 1570s, 1560s, maybe we can start throwing some size on. But this currently right now is the trade idea. Okay, so I'm actually going to draw this up for you guys. It looks like a 1-to-1 risk reward ratio. Maybe we can get something in, something a little nicer in, but as it stands right now, it looks like it'll be a 1-to-1. Okay, so that's the Euro-U. Outside of the Euro-U, man, Canada is having an interesting past few days. You guys can see that there's a lot of volatility here for the CAD. Past 2 days, we did see a massive selling here for the USD CAD. So it's really interesting to see exactly where this market can go. Let's pull up the weekly, and maybe we can get a better idea as to where we currently are. So yeah, so currently right now we're somewhat nearing the low $1.30 of the USD CAD for Q3 and Q2. Okay, so that's back in June. So now the beginning of the year 2018, yeah, we started off down here in the $1.24s. But we somewhat made our way back up into these $1.30s, and we do have some consolidation right around the $1.30s currently right now. So it's a pivotal point for the CAD. We see a lot of price action around this area. It's just really about exactly trying to rationalize, okay, if markets start to consolidate around this price area, what's likely to happen. Again, if we get U.S. strength, then we will see this market trade back up in the structure. But if somehow CAD can pull out some Canadian strength, then we'll pull back down. Okay, I think the most important thing for us to be looking at right now is things regarding NAFTA. We did meet an agreement with Mexico. Now it's on the table for us to have an agreement with Canada. And I think the riskiness of that, the Trudeau and Trump relationship, obviously isn't the best one, so again, if he's playing it in regards to, being petty, I'm talking about Trump, if Trump wants to be petty, or if Trump wants to kind of, trying to show his strength, so to speak, he may not meet an agreement with Canada just literally because of how he feels about the other president, right? And so that could definitely lead the USD CAD to some CAD weakness, some US strength. We might push back up in the structure. So we have to see how we consolidate around this price area. This is what we're looking like on the daily. It does seem to me that we may make a run down to $1.30 flat. Once we're at $1.30 flat, markets may just start to, consolidate, and only for us to see a push back up into structure. And that's only about 20-30 pips away. Okay, so let's see how the US CAD trades. Again, I like that the move sell side was so massive. That is going to give us an opportunity potentially to have a pullback up in the structure. That's something that we can look at. Again, that's just based off of the fact that I think that Canada may see a little weakness up until this NAFTA agreement or this Canadian trade agreement with the U.S. pans out, and if the U.S. dollar does have a little bit of strength, which is what we want, to happen. And then so lastly, I talked about the NZD and how the NZD is just falling off a cliff, and how Australia also is just falling off a cliff because of the trade war with China. And so that's just something that we can also keep an eye out on. So Euro NZD has been pouring to the upside, and so we were expecting to see another little run to the upside on this Euro NZD before the week is out. All right, before the week is out. This is a daily, so if you guys can notice here, the daily structure on this thing is just screaming to the buy side right now. Here, let me pull up the weekly. If you guys want to take a look at the weekly here, again, you see another scenario where you see a market run, you see some consolidation once markets got back at that high, and then fundamentals kicked back in, and then we see another rip to the high. All right, pretty interesting stuff. And then again, if you guys want to see that correlated, just to make sure that that is New Zealand strength, New Zealand weakness, we can check it out here on the GBP. You're seeing that same rip to the high. Obviously, the GBP took a little bit of a hit around this time, a month ago, 2 months ago. But then again, notice this massive run to the upside. Again, that's more NZD weakness. Okay, so we can basically place a claim that it is NZD weakness that we're keeping an eye on right now. Here, let's look at the Aussie NZD. Aussie NZD might be a little bit consolidated, right? Because both of these pairs are getting weak at the same time. Cool, huh? All right, so look, let's see if we can get a continuation here of this NZD weakness. That's why I mentioned on the channel that, hey, we might have some opportunity. And the opportunity, folks, that I'm looking for right now is I'm really keeping an eye out on this consolidation. I do like the fact that markets did just retest this 4-hour low. All right, you see this nice little pullback that we saw over the past two 4-hour candles. All right, well, we have an active 4-hour that just spawned at 9 o'clock, but then we have this European session candle that was happening as well. Actually, this is our European session candle, and this is our later European session candle. This is our U.S. session candle here. Okay, so again, I do like how markets kind of stuck and consolidated right here at this price point. We might potentially have an entry, you know, sooner than we thought. Look at that. So right now, if we see a break at 77.80, that might not be a horrible trade idea. Maybe just see it run back up into structure. You know, just catch a quick little grab and go. Okay, so I'm gonna draw that up. I'm gonna draw up the Euro NZD play, and I'm gonna draw up something here in regards to this Euro USD play. Again, this would both be insinuating that we'd be hoping for a little bit of Euro strength today. If we get some Euro strength today, then these pairs are gonna work out. Look at that Euro USD kind of already making its run a little bit. Holy shit. Okie dokie. All right, guys. Okay. I'm going to draw something up real quick. I'll talk to you guys in a sec.